To understand the firestorm that is the modern Middle East, to comprehend the visceral, all-consuming hatred directed at Iran from all sides, you must first understand a schism that is 14 centuries old. You must go back to the year 632, to the moment the Prophet Muhammad died, leaving behind a new faith that would conquer a quarter of the world. And in that moment of grief and uncertainty, a question arose, a question so powerful, so fundamental that it cleaved the soul of Islam in two, a wound that has never healed, a wound that festers and bleeds to this very day. The question was, who should lead? One group believed the leader, the caliph, should be chosen based on merit and piety, electing the Prophet's trusted companion, Abu Bakr. They became the Sunni. The other group believed leadership could only pass through the Prophet's bloodline, through his son-in-law Ali. They became the Shia. This was not a polite disagreement. It was a permanent, violent split. It was a spiritual civil war that has echoed through the ages. In the Middle East, religion is not a private belief. It is not something you practice on a holy day. It is identity itself. It is the main treatment. It is the reason to love or to hate, to live or to die. And at the epicenter of this ancient, bloody feud stands the nation of Iran. Iran is not just a Shia country, it is the Shia country. It is the fortress, the Vatican, the beating heart of Shia Islam. Over 90% of its 80 million people are Shia. They do not merely adhere to this branch of Islam, they see themselves as its divinely appointed protectors. This belief is not a matter of foreign policy, it is woven into the very fabric of their national soul, and this sacred duty, this self-appointed role as the guardian of the global Shia community, makes Iran an intolerable, blasphemous thorn in the side of the vast Sunni world, a world led by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is the custodian of Islam's two holiest sites, Mecca and Medina. It is the self-proclaimed leader of the Sunni faith. Its immense oil wealth gives it a global voice. The Saudi royal family cannot and will not accept a challenge to its religious supremacy, especially from a nation it views as heretical. For decades, this religious rivalry simmered beneath a veneer of diplomatic pragmatism. Then came 1979, the year the world changed. The year Ayatollah Khomeini returned from exile and ignited the Islamic Revolution in Iran. He overthrew the pro-Western monarchy and declared Iran a revolutionary Islamic republic, a republic built on the bedrock of Shia theology. This was not just a political revolution, it was a spiritual earthquake. Khomeini was not content to simply rule Iran. His ambition was messianic. He sought to export his revolution, to spread its fire throughout the entire Middle East. He denounced the wealthy Arab monarchies of the Gulf, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain, as puppets of the West, as anti-Muslim apostates who had betrayed the faith. This was a direct declaration of war on the established Sunni order. A terrifying fear gripped the Sunni dynasties. They saw Khomeini's revolution as an existential threat. They looked at the Shia minorities within their own borders, often suppressed and impoverished, and saw a potential fifth column, an army of revolutionaries waiting to be activated by Tehran. In Bahrain, where a Sunni family rules over a 70% Shia majority, this fear is a daily reality. In the oil-rich eastern provinces of Saudi Arabia, home to a restive Shia population, this fear justifies a brutal state repression. This is not a theoretical conflict. It is a merciless religious war being fought by proxy across the entire region, turning nations into charnel houses. Look at Yemen. It is a medieval hellscape, a battle for Sunni honor against what they perceive as the Shia threat. Iran backs the Houthi rebels, a group ideologically close to Shia Islam. In response, a Saudi-led coalition has unleashed a relentless bombing campaign, creating the world's worst humanitarian crisis. This is not just about religion, it is about geopolitics. The war in Yemen is a battle for control of the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, a vital choke point for global oil shipments. It is a war to prevent the creation of a Shia dagger aimed at the soft underbelly of the Arabian Peninsula. Look at Syria. It has become the ground zero of this apocalyptic sectarian struggle. Iran has poured billions of dollars and sent thousands of its own soldiers to prop up the regime of Bashar al-Assad. Assad belongs to the Alawite sect, an offshoot of Shia Islam. For Iran, his survival is non-negotiable. Syria is the critical linchpin in what Tehran calls its Shia arc, an unbroken corridor of influence stretching from Iran through Iraq and Syria, all the way to Lebanon and the Mediterranean Sea. On the other side, Sunni powers like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Turkey have backed a motley collection of rebel groups, hoping to shatter this arc and topple Iran's key ally. The result has been a decade of butchery that has left 500,000 people dead and a nation in ruins. Look at Iraq. After the United States foolishly overthrew the Sunni dictator Saddam Hussein in 2003, the country's long-oppressed Shia majority rose to power. Iran moved in immediately, becoming the primary sponsor of the new Iraqi government and the patron of powerful Shia militias. For Saudi Arabia, this is a nightmare realized. They see Iraq, a major Arab nation, transforming into a vassal state of Iran. Iraq is also home to the holy Shia cities of Karbala and Najaf, sites of pilgrimage for millions. This deepens Iran's resolve to protect its influence there at all costs, cementing a Shia bloc at the very heart of the Arab world. And then there is Israel. The animosity between Iran and the Jewish state is a toxic brew of religion and politics, a conflict fueled by ancient prophecies and modern weaponry. For Iran, the existence of Israel is a religious insult. It is the occupier of the Holy Land of Islam, a usurper squatting on the sacred ground of Jerusalem and Palestine. After the 1979 revolution, Khomeini severed all ties with Israel, famously branding it the little devil to America's big devil. Defending the Palestinian cause became a sacred duty for the Islamic Republic, a way to project its leadership across the entire Muslim world, beyond the Sunni-Shia divide. Iran has become the chief patron of militant groups dedicated to Israel's destruction. It provides money, weapons, and training to Hezbollah in Lebanon, a Shia army more powerful than the Lebanese state itself. It backs Hamas in Gaza, even though Hamas is a Sunni organization, because their shared hatred of Israel transcends sectarian differences. From Israel's perspective, this is not a political dispute. It is an existential threat. Iranian leaders from Khomeini to the present day have repeatedly called for wiping Israel off the map. The Jewish state, surrounded by enemies and haunted by the memory of the Holocaust, hears these words not as rhetoric, but as a literal promise of annihilation. Hezbollah and Hamas, armed and directed by Iran, have rained rockets down on Israeli cities and waged bloody wars against the Israeli army. Israel sees Iran's hand behind every attack, every casualty. Syria has become a direct battlefront, a land bridge used by Iran to smuggle advanced weaponry to Hezbollah. Israeli jets now routinely strike Iranian targets inside Syria, playing a deadly game of cat and mouse in a war that is no longer cold. This leads to the ultimate fear, the nightmare scenario that keeps generals in Tel Aviv and Riyadh awake at night: Iran's nuclear program. This is not seen as a civilian energy project. It is viewed as a symbol of religious ambition and terrifying power. While Iran insists its intentions are peaceful, no one in the region believes it. They believe Iran is building a Shia bomb, a weapon that would not only provide a security guarantee for the regime in Tehran, but would fundamentally alter the balance of power in the Middle East forever. For Israel, a nuclear-armed Iran is the realization of its darkest fears. A regime that calls for its destruction would now have the means to achieve it. They believe Iran would not hesitate to use a nuclear weapon or threaten to use one, seeing it as the ultimate weapon in a holy war. Iran's geography only amplifies these fears. It sits at the strategic center of the region, a land bridge between Asia, the Middle East, and Europe. Its long coastline on the Persian Gulf gives it control over one side of the Strait of Hormuz, the choke point through which a fifth of the world's oil supply must pass. The Arab Gulf states live in constant fear that Iran could use its military and its religious fervor to choke off their economic lifeline. Iran's mountainous terrain, the Great Zagros and Alborz ranges, form a natural fortress, making it incredibly difficult to invade by land. This geographical security gives Tehran a sense of confidence, an ability to pursue its revolutionary policies without fear of a conventional attack, forcing its enemies to acknowledge its raw military and geographical strength. But the story Iran tells itself is completely different. In the Iranian narrative, they are not the aggressor, they are the victim. They see themselves as a proud nation with a 500-year history, a civilization that predates most of its Arab neighbors by millennia. They see themselves as the protectors of persecuted Shia communities across the region. They believe they are resisting a relentless siege led by the United States, Israel, and their pro-Western Arab puppets. They believe they are defending Islam itself from corruption and foreign domination. They do not want to be manipulated or bullied. They are simply demanding their rightful place as a major regional power. But this conflict is about to enter a new, terrifying phase, one that moves beyond the realm of proxy wars and nuclear standoffs. The battle for the soul of Islam is about to become a battle for the very nature of reality. The ancient prophecies of both Shia and Sunni Islam speak of a final, apocalyptic battle, a war at the end of days that will precede the arrival of a messianic figure, the Mahdi for the Shia, a figure also recognized in Sunni tradition. There is a growing, fanatical belief among hardliners in both Tehran and Riyadh that they are living in these prophesied times, that their actions are not merely political but are actively paving the way for this final divine conflict. Imagine a scenario. A cabal of extremist clerics within Iran's Revolutionary Guard, convinced that the arrival of the Mahdi is imminent, decides to force God's hand. They believe that a great cataclysm, a hard victory, is necessary to trigger the final events. Using their deep control over the state, they orchestrate a false flag operation of unimaginable horror. They detonate a dirty bomb not in Tel Aviv, but in the holy city of Karbala, Iraq, during the height of a major Shia pilgrimage, killing hundreds of thousands of their own faithful. They immediately blame the attack on a joint Saudi-Israeli-American operation, using fabricated evidence and deep fake videos to show Israeli commandos and Saudi agents planting the device. The Shia world erupts in a tidal wave of grief and rage. Millions take to the streets, demanding a holy war of vengeance. The Iranian government, forced by the will of its people, declares a state of total war. It unleashes its entire missile arsenal not just at Israel but at the oil fields and desalination plants of Saudi Arabia, crippling the kingdom's economy and its ability to provide water to its cities. The Strait of Hormuz is mined. The global economy collapses overnight. But the plan is even more diabolical. In the chaos, this messianic cabal activates a top-secret program, something developed in the deepest, most hidden underground labs. It is not a nuclear weapon. It is a psycho-spiritual weapon, using a combination of advanced microwave technology, infrasound frequencies, and aerosolized psychoactive compounds. They begin to broadcast a signal across the region. A signal designed to induce a state of heightened religious ecstasy and paranoia in those who are genetically predisposed to it. They call it the voice of Ali. It begins as whispers in the minds of the faithful, visions of the martyred imams, auditory hallucinations that confirm the government's narrative of a vast satanic conspiracy. The effect is catastrophic. Shia militias in Iraq and Lebanon, already enraged, are driven into a berserker frenzy, committing unspeakable atrocities against Sunni civilians. Believing they are cleansing the earth for the Mahdi's arrival, the Sunni world, witnessing this madness, responds in kind. Extremist preachers in Saudi Arabia declare that the Shia have revealed their true demonic nature. They call for a global jihad to exterminate the heretics. They activate their own secret weapon, not a technological one, but a biological one. For years, they have been funding research into a strain of the MERS coronavirus, genetically engineered to be incredibly contagious, but to have a far higher fatality rate, specifically among people of Persian ethnic descent. The virus is released by pilgrims returning from a deliberately contaminated Hajj in Mecca. It sweeps through Iran like a wildfire, a plague that seems to discriminate, that disproportionately kills Iranians, confirming in the minds of the Sunnis that God is on their side. The world descends into a true holy war, a self-fulfilling prophecy of apocalyptic scale. Israel, seeing the chaos and believing Iran has finally crossed the ultimate red line, enacts its Samson option, launching a full-scale nuclear strike on Iran's major cities and military facilities. Iran, in its death throes, retaliates with whatever it has left, firing nuclear-tipped missiles it had secretly developed at Tel Aviv and Riyadh. The mushroom clouds rise over the Middle East. The ancient Holy Lands are turned into radioactive glass. Millions are dead. The prophecies have been fulfilled not by the hand of God, but by the hubris and hatred of men. This is the ultimate danger of the conflict that grips the region. It is not just about oil or land or power. It is a battle over God. And when men believe they are fighting for God, they are capable of a savagery that can unmake the world. The schism that began in 632 does not just end in war, it ends in hell on earth.